Hello everyone and welcome back to the CDL podcast channel. In this one today, as you can see, we're going to be doing our predictions for the upcoming week 2 event. Doesn't look like we have a home series, kind of like for that first week. We had the Atlanta opening weekend by Atlanta Faze, kind of like a home series like we had last year. But this week it looks like it's just they're calling it week 2 since we're not actually really traveling anywhere. But if you enjoyed this and these prediction kind of videos leading up to the events, just let me know, leave a comment down below, tell me what your predictions are, and then like the video obviously if you enjoyed, and subscribe if you're new. We just hit 200 as we talked about in the video yesterday, and we're on the road to 300 now, trying to keep pushing more forward. But like I said, I talked about it a little bit in the video yesterday. I really appreciate the 200 subscribers. If you didn't see that video yet, go check it out, because these are going to be uploaded pretty close to each other, as obviously we have pretty short turnaround from each weekend to the next. So these are going to be uploaded in pretty short order after each other. So yeah, leave a like, comment, and subscribe in this video if you enjoy it. And without further ado, we'll just get right into the predictions. I don't want to make this one go too long, as it's just going to be a prediction episode. A little bit more information we have this week going into predictions, because obviously we are not just basing it off what we see the roster on paper and the kickoff of one match. We're actually basing it off now a kickoff, the roster on paper, as well as 2 matches for most teams, but 1 for others. And unfortunately, the teams that played 1 match are kind of the teams I feel like we need more information on, namely like New York and London, since New York has a relatively new roster with people being switched out, and same with London with Parasite subbing in. Those are the 2 teams I feel like we really need a lot more information on, and we saw London play only 1 series, and we saw New York play only 1 series in 3 maps, in which they almost took out the team who's number 1 in the standings right now, just barely losing to them in 3 maps. And then the first matchup over here on Thursday, we'll kick it off with that one. It's Florida versus LAG. I feel like this one should be pretty easy to predict, but Florida is 0-1, falling 3-1 to Toronto Ultra last week. And by the way, before I really get into that one, I've got my predictions up here from last week. I didn't do so hot, actually. Last year I was pretty on with my predictions, but like I said, I'm expecting, last year when I started the podcast as well, it was mid-year of MW, so we already had information on a lot of the teams. So I don't think that I was as off as I was this time, just because, like I said, we had information on a lot of teams, kind of knew what was going on there and stuff. But yeah, I was pretty off. I got some of the matches right, just map counts wrong. I think I only got 2 exactly right, which was this Ravens Surge match and then that Empire Surge match. So the Surge I was right on. For some reason, that's the one team that was a question mark, and I kind of was right on with their matches. But yeah, we'll get into this this second week right here. I feel like overall this week, matches should be a little easier to predict, because we have a lot of pretty good teams playing lower teams, it seems like, from some of the matchups. But there's obviously some tough ones, like this OpTic Toronto one, and then even like Faze Ultra I feel like is a little bit of a tough one. I think Subliners Rocker is not an easy one. Even Subliners London might not be that easy, but overall we have a little more clarity of teams, like I said, so we'll just get right into it. Florida versus LAG. I mean, LAG, it went 1-1 last week. They beat Paris, though, and it took them to a Game 5 to beat them. And we saw Florida lose 3-1 to Ultra, although I don't think that's as bad of a loss as some people are saying, because I think Ultra are actually really good. But I'm going to pick Florida on this one, and I'm going to go 3-1. Yeah, I'm going to go 3-1 because, I really think that LAG is a team that's going to play a fundamental COD as the year goes on. They really struggled. They had a lot of dumb mistakes, as the casters said, in their 2 matches last week. But I feel like they'll be able to take like the search off of Florida. Maybe not, I don't know. They might not for sure take it, but I feel like they'll be able to take the search or the control, one of the 2. I think Florida's going to take the opening hard point. I think LAG will find a way to squeak out a map. Then the second one, honestly, we're getting right into a tough one to predict right away. I honestly think that this OpTic versus Toronto match might be the toughest one to predict for the entire weekend. With the way we saw OpTic play in search, it's kind of doubtful that they'll be able to beat Toronto in any search maps, because Toronto looked very good in search. But at the same time, I would say OpTic is probably the best hardpoint team in the game right now, and maybe even the best control team. They're just a really good respawn team with the amount of talent they have. And Toronto looked really good in hardpoint. They beat Florida in 2 hardpoints, and I would consider Florida to be one of the better respawn teams in the game too with their talent, even though Skies wasn't playing up to his par in the last matchup. To me, this is a tough one to predict too, because I feel like it could easily be a 5-game series, and I just have a feeling that OpTic's going to win it. I don't think OpTic's going to fall to 1-2 on the season here. But at the same time, I also think if it goes Game 5, I'd give the edge to Toronto. So I feel like this series is either going to be a 3-2 win for Toronto or a 3-1 win for OpTic, just because of the fact that, like I said, if it goes Game 5, I believe Toronto's going to win. And because of the fact I think OpTic's going to win, I don't think they're going to allow themselves to fall to 1-2 to start the year and be in danger of starting a loser's bracket for that first major. I think I'm going to go 3-1 OpTic. And like I said, the only reason I'm going 3-1 is because I just believe they're going to find a way to do it. I think they'll win the map 1 and then maybe drop the map 2. And then I think if they can find a way to win that control and go up 2-1, they'll win that map 4 hardpoint, that second hardpoint, and win it 3-1. Although, like I said, Toronto is not a team to be slept on. And with them playing Atlanta and Chicago this week, I might pick them to go 0-2, which is super tough to predict because I do think they're a really, really good team. They just got the unfortunate draw of playing probably the top 2 teams in their group. But I'm going to go 3-1 in this one. That could easily be wrong, though. I could see Toronto winning that 3-2 or maybe even 3-1 if they come out hot like they did against Florida. And then in the next one, we've got Minnesota Surge. This one's a weird one to predict because it feels like it should obviously be Minnesota. But we saw Surge improve their search and destroy. They won both searches against London in their match. Obviously, they lost the Surge to Dallas, but they lost everything to Dallas by a lot. I feel like Minnesota's the obvious pick here, and I don't want to pick 3-1 every time, but I think I'm going to pick 3-1 here for Minnesota. I think Surge come out and maybe take the opening hardpoint, and then I think Minnesota rattles 3 straight off. I wouldn't be surprised with this. Actually, I might go Game 5 with this. I feel like Surge have a decent chance to take the first hardpoint and then either take the control or the second hardpoint and maybe lose both. I'm actually going to go 3-2. I think that might be a dumb prediction because I think Minnesota is the better team. But I do think the Surge with Gunless improving, and I think they have some confidence coming off last week. Granted, they did lose 3-0 to Empire Big, and I mean, Minnesota beat Empire, so that would say that Minnesota should beat them. But at the same time, their second match was against London. Gunless fixed his monitor issues, whatever he had going on, where he wasn't playing on 244 hertz or whatever it is. Like everybody else, he was playing on 60 for like all of the practice. I feel like they just have some more confidence coming in. I feel like their vibes are actually high for a team that could potentially have kind of issues with vibes. I feel like Gunless and Octane are kind of vibing together, and I feel like Prestinni really is in a good headspace, although he was kind of tweeting some iffy things after the game. But I feel like overall the team has a little bit of confidence after finally getting a win, because, I mean, last year they could never get a win with Octane, and now, like, seeing them get a win on the board in the first week kind of, I feel like, you know, shows, hey, we can get some wins this year. We didn't just beat LAG, we actually beat London, who might not be a bad team. So I feel like they get some confidence and we'll get a couple maps here on the board. The next one's another tough one to predict because, once again, if London drops this one, they go to 0-2, and then they have to play Empire later in the week, so they probably drop to 0-3. And unfortunately for them, I think they are going to drop this one. I think this is going to be another Game 5 series, though. I think that New York's going to win this. I understand that New York's 0-1 and haven't won a map yet in the CDL. They also lost in the Kickoff Classic 3-0. That was to Empire, though, when they had a brand new team, and they could have easily won that control if they didn't blow that 1v2 to illey on raid on that B site. But I don't know. I just feel like New York's going to win this. I mean, if LA Thieves is the best team in the game or one of the top 4 teams like everybody is saying they are, with them going 2-0 last week and beating Minnesota, and who did they beat? My God, I'm blanking on who the heck they beat. But anyways, if LA Thieves is truly one of the top teams, top 3, top 4 out there, and New York was able to play them, well, they beat New York and Minnesota. What the heck am I talking about? God, sorry, I'm stupid. If New York is truly, or LA Thieves, my God, I'm jumbling all my words, are truly as good as everybody thinks they are, and New York was able to lose only by 9 in the hard point, and then went round 11 with them in Search, and then also went 3-2 in Control, then New York's clearly a pretty good team. They have another week of practice. I think Diamond Khan is probably more settled in now. He's probably really nervous for his first match. I feel like Asim's probably settling into the team more. I'm a little worried about Matt because he played pretty bad in the Kickoff Classic, and then also played pretty bad in their match last week against LA. But I do think they'll settle in here. I think London's also a team that's learning, and London has had less time to learn since their roster changes and bringing in Parasite. I think New York wins this one 3-2. Next one, we've got Dallas versus London. I feel like this one is pretty easy and should be pretty easy. I'm actually going to go with the Dallas 3-0 here. I think they are going to win at 3-0. It's Dallas's only matchup of the weekend. And the reason I go 3-0 and don't give London a map here is because I think Dallas is going to be fired up. from losing to Minnesota. I think they know that their play was pretty bad in Minnesota. I mean, Minnesota's a good team, but Dallas feels like every team they play they should beat because, I mean, they're the defending world champs. They might be the best team in the world, so I feel like every time they go out there, they expect to win. They expect a 3-0. Obviously, you're not going to build a 3-0 every team, and you're not going to win every match, but, I mean, when you're the top team and one of the top dogs, that's the mentality you have to have, and that's the mentality they have. This is the only match, like I said, they get for the week, so I feel like they're going to try to come out and prove a point and be like, hey, we're still here, we're still the top dog. And I think, unfortunately for London, they're the team that's in their way when they try to do that. I wouldn't want to be the team in the way of crimsix when he's ready to strike and wants revenge. I think London falls victim to that and falls 0-3, despite the fact that I actually don't think London is really that bad of a team. I actually think they're pretty good. I think they happened to lose 3-2 to Surge, only got one match that week, and it was their first match playing with Parasite. They didn't have a ton of practice. I think they fall victim to playing a solid New York team that is also looking to prove something, and then I think they fall victim of being the team kind of on the revenge tour of Dallas Empire, trying to prove that they're still the top dog. Next match, another one that I feel like is somewhat easy to predict. LA Guerrillas OpTic. I think I'm going to just continue the 3-0 trend. Feels like 3-0s are a little bit easier for good teams to have this year because of the fact that there's no squad spawns and pretty standard maps in the game. So like in Hardpoint, if you have better gun skill and you rotate better and you're able to hold a push, or, I mean, if you're able to get spawns on a hill, like, I mean, Raid's the perfect example, the most classic way you can get people to spawn out. I mean, P1, you spawn pretty close overall the whole time, at least in the first rotation. But then to P2, if you block the spawns in the back and get kitchen control, you can pretty much get them spawning out like red and kind of over by house. And it's kind of a long run for them to get to the hill, and you can punish them with that. And then when you rotate all the way over to garage, if you beat them there, you can really get them spawning out far, kind of towards mid and towards house, and you can get a lot of time. And it's a money hill, and then probably the most money hill on the map, P4. If you go to basketball court, once again, you can get them spawning out all the way out by garage and over by like red again. And I mean, that wouldn't happen in MW. And MW, I mean, think about all the hills. That one hill that comes to mind is that one kind of by whatever bomb site that was on Ramaza, where there's a little hop up through the front, like the little window, and then there's the doors in the side and the back. That's the one that always comes to mind for me, is they would get a wave of kills, push out the back, and they would spawn even further in the back and then in the front, and they would just be able to pinch you, and it'd just be constant. Like, I remember Crim got like a 6-piece on that hill to win it because they just kept spawning there, the other team, whoever they were playing, like late in the year. It's like, in this game, I feel like the good teams can win more often and win in 3-0s more often, just because of the fact that in hardpoint you can punish people with rotations, and if you're just winning your gunfights and making them spawn out, you're going to win. They don't just keep spawning close and have a million cracks at it like they did in MW. Only concern here I have for OpTic not winning 3-0s, I do think LA Guerrillas have a very good chance to take the search. I think they'll be probably a pretty good search team all year because they have to pride themselves on that. Although I think OpTic's really going to focus on search. I think they'll get a little reps in against Toronto Ultra. They'll improve, and they've got to win a search at some point, and I think they'll do it in this series. All right, and then the Atlanta Faze Toronto Ultra matchup. This is a weird one to me. It's Faze's first matchup of the weekend. Ultra had already played OpTic. At this point, if Ultra beats OpTic, which I think is certainly possible, I know I predicted OpTic to win, but I am not confident in that pick at all. At this point, I believe if Ultra have lost to OpTic, they have something to prove. I actually think I really want to pick Ultra to come out and win this one, and I think that's going to help me with the double points here for the marquee matchup for Game Fuel, because I do actually think Ultra have a good chance of winning it, and I think most people are going to pick Faze. I think I'm going to go Ultra in a 3-2 over Faze, and I'll give some reasons why here. I think Faze feel pretty confident coming off their win last week. They're 2-0. I don't think they're going to overlook Ultra because Ultra are a good team, but I think Ultra is going to be prepping for this game really hard, if that makes sense. I know they have to prep for OpTic first, and Faze can just sit here and prep for them all week because it's their only match, but there's just something about Ultra. I feel like they beat Faze in that final last year in the Toronto home series, and I just think there's something about this Ultra team that last year they were kind of flipping rosters and like flipping around who they were playing and stuff. It took them a while to get it figured out, and then they figured it out kind of towards the end of the year in that Toronto home series, like I said, and then at Champs, and then they made that run, and they actually should have probably beat Dallas to get to top 4 in the winner side of it, and they would have had a pretty good chance to, I mean, they would have been in winners finals and had a pretty good chance to go into probably the grand finals. If not, they would have been top 4 for sure because they were going to make it to that weekend. And they dropped down and they lose to London for the last spot in the final 4. And I feel like this year they don't want to let that happen. They kind of want to get out to a fast start. And and get things started quicker this year. And I think, honestly, respawn-wise, I think they keep up with Atlanta Faze talent-wise. I think the series is probably going to go something like Atlanta takes the first hard point, but I think it'll be like a 250 to 230 game. I think it'll be pretty close. Then I think Toronto is going to take the second search, whatever that may be. And then I think I would probably say Atlanta's going to take the control, and then I think Toronto's going to go back-to-back in the hard point in the search. I think Toronto's going to take both searches off Faze, and then probably the game 4 hard point, maybe the control, though. I just think Atlanta's going to win map 1. And obviously, I think Toronto's going to win map 5 because I think they're going to win the series. Once again, I feel not confident in this pick, but I feel like sometimes I got to spice up the video and go with an upset. And I'm not one to just go with upsets just to go with an upset because I want to spice up the video. But I do enjoy kind of picking upsets, and I actually think this is a realistic one that could happen. So I'm just going to go on a limb and say Ultra win this one. You know, I've always kind of been an Ultra fan since the end of last year when they started to pick it up, and Bance has kind of made me believe in him, even though I didn't really believe in him coming into the year. So I'm going to say screw it and go with Ultra. Now, I mean, with my luck and how things seem to work, I'm pretty much guaranteeing, sorry, OpTic fans, I'm pretty much guaranteeing that Ultra's going to beat OpTic now, and Faze is going to beat Ultra because I wanted to pick one upset between the two Ultra matchups, and I probably flip-flopped it wrong. Going into Friday, though, the first matchup is Florida versus Paris. Florida gets a pretty cakewalk week this week, huh? They get LAG and Paris, probably the two worst teams in their division, so they better take advantage of it. I think they will. I think they 3-0 Paris. Paris has really disappointed me. I actually thought they had a decent chance to be like a dark horse team that could like sneak into the top 8 in the winner side and then screw up the bracket, maybe like take out the 1 seed and like scratch a top 4 out every once in a while here and there at a major, but it doesn't seem like they're going to be able to do this. To me, this is a big week for Florida. Now looking at the matchups, though, because they get LAG, a team they should beat, and they get Paris, a team they should beat. They started 0-1 last week and played, honestly, pretty awful against Toronto. Granted, I think Toronto is a good team and had a part in that, but Skies was awful. If Florida drops even one series this week, I'm going to start to be really concerned about them because, I mean, if you're supposed to be a top 4, top 5 team, you really can never lose to teams like LAG and Paris since they're supposed to be the bottom 2 teams. But I think Skies is going to pick it up. I think Skies is going to have another MVP-type series, kind of like he had all of MW. I think he's got some things to prove. I think he's really upset with the way he played against Toronto. I think he's going to come out, play like a beast. I think Neptune will play like a beast. I think Awakening. I think just overall, Awakening, Skies, Neptune are just going to overwhelm Paris with slaying power. And then that second matchup there on Sunday is LA Thieves versus Seattle Surge. Feels like it should be another easy one to predict. I think LA Thieves should win this one. I think I'm going to go 3-1 again. I'm starting to respect Surge. I think Surge have just, with Octane and Gunless, if he's in his true, like vintage IW Gunless, World War II Gunless kind of form, I think that they can win any series they're in because he has takeover ability, and so does Octane. It's just a matter of if Prestinni is playing really well, because I think Looney will be a pretty steady hand around a 1 and playing okay for them and being a leader. But if we get IW-type Gunless where he's able to take over maps and Octane's playing as well as he always does, the X Factor becomes Prestinni, but that also requires Gunless to be that consistent IW Gunless, which is very hard to hold because IW Gunless was the best player in the game, at least at one point when he was on United early in the year and they won that event. But I actually think that Seattle Surge might come out and punch LA Thieves in the mouth in the game 1 hardpoint, get that win on whatever map that may be, and then I think LA Thieves will just roll 3 straight. That's their only match of the weekend, so they're preparing for Surge all weekend. Not like Surge has some great search and destroy strats to prepare for, so I think LA Thieves will take it in a 3-1. I think it will be in decently easy fashion, although I think Surge could make the respawns competitive. And then in the final match, an interesting marquee match, I suppose. I feel like it could be a pretty close one. It's Minnesota versus New York. And this is another really weird one to me because I feel like the obvious pick is Minnesota. They took out Dallas, but at the same time, they also got destroyed by LA Thieves last week. They have an interesting match early in the week that they should win against Surge, but I do think Surge always have upset potential with Octane and Gunless on the same team. So I don't know if they win that one, but I do think Minnesota is going to win this one as well. I think this is a 5-game series waiting to happen, though. Once again, I could very easily see New York winning this one. This is one of the most toss-up ones on the weekend for me, along with probably that OpTic Toronto match, and then probably that London-New York match. The New York matches are just such toss-ups to me because, I mean, they played Dallas close in a couple maps in the kickoff, and then played LA Thieves, about as close as you can possibly play them in every map last week, and they still haven't won a map in the CDL. But that's why you can't always look at stats like that and say they haven't won a map, because they played all 3 maps extremely close. I mean, they could have easily 3-0'd LA Thieves. If you lose by 9 in a hard point, you could have won it, and if you lose around 11, you could have won it, and if you lose 3-2 in control, you could have won it. So I feel like New York has a decent chance to take out Minnesota here, but I'm just going to go with Minnesota just because of the fact that we've seen them beat Dallas Empire. We've seen them win a series. We've seen those players come up big in a Game 5 when the nerves are on. And, I mean, players like Diamond Khan, we haven't really seen enough of him in the clutch to know if he has the ice or not. Not saying he doesn't. I'm assuming he probably does. I mean, and he's playing with Clay, a player who's proven to have the ice. I mean, Mac won an event with him last year. He's got the ice, I'm sure. And Asim is a player I've always liked. I think he's got the ice. I think that dude will just do whatever it takes to win. And then on the Minnesota side, you just got more experience. I think that they're going to pick it up in respawns. I think they're really going to focus on respawns in practice this week if they can get to a situation where they have power. I saw a bunch of them are at Zuma's place, so they can finally start practicing again because of all the snow that's down in Dallas. Because 4 inches of snow took out Dallas. That always sounds so weird to me. I understand they don't really have the infrastructure and stuff to take out 4 inches of snow, but being from Wisconsin, 4 inches of snow is like an everyday occurrence here in winter. So it's just weird to see how like 4 inches of snow here, we're just like, move on with your life, scrape off our car and go drive, and 4 inches of snow shuts down the whole state in Texas. It's just crazy world we live in, but hopefully they all get to their power since most of the players are in Texas and are able to practice this week. But yeah, I'm going to go with Minnesota in that one. So there you have it. There's my predictions. Came into the video looking at the matchups thinking, I'll be pretty confident in my picks. Ending the video here, I'll say I'm really not that confident in my picks. I think that OpTic Toronto matchup could go either way. I think both matches on Friday could go either way. I think that final match on Saturday could go either way, and I think that, honestly, that final match on Sunday could go either way. There's a lot of toss-up matches this week. Didn't do great on my predictions that first week, but I'm hoping to do better this week. That's going to do it for this one, though. This is just going to be a prediction kind of coming up ahead of the week. The grind is really on because matches end every Sunday night. Then Monday we got to do the reaction video, or Tuesday. And then the next day, we've got to get the prediction video out by Wednesday because the matches re-roll up on Thursday. So it's a grind this week to get both pods out because they kind of come back to back. But we persevere and we do it. I really enjoy making them, obviously, so that makes it a lot easier. But that's going to do it for this one. Be sure to leave a like and subscribe if you enjoyed. Obviously, we just hit 200, trying to climb that up to 300 plus. That's the next goal. We just keep pushing new goals and keep trying to break them. But most importantly, leave a comment down below if you did enjoy it. I obviously love seeing your predictions and seeing what you think about the matches. Obviously, I made some bold ones here. I'm sure a lot of you are going to pick Toronto over OpTic because that kind of seems like the sexy upset to pick. But I went with the not as sexy one and the really tough one to predict, and that's Toronto over Atlanta. So let's hear some upsets you guys have, like lock-in picks you guys have. I would love to start a survivor pool or something with listeners if they wanted to do that. That'd be something that's kind of fun, like you do in the NFL, where you get to pick one team per week that you guaranteed they'll win a certain matchup or something. But that'd be tough with COD because there's only 12 teams, and in survivor pools you can usually only pick each team once. But yeah, that's gonna do it for this one. Like I said, like and subscribe if you enjoyed. Comment down below your thoughts. That's gonna be it. I look forward to watching the matches this weekend. Hope you do as well. That's gonna be me signing out, Ryan, for the CDL podcast, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Have a great day, everyone.